Thank you for tuning in to The Real Tea with T3. My name is Tesia Harris, and I'm the team leader of Texas Trio Team. We have such an amazing guest today. You're going to really enjoy all the topics that we are covering today. So let's go around and introduce ourselves.
I'm Kendra Gentges, team manager of Texas Trio Team.
And I'm Trey Holloway, Precinct 2 Constable and Sheriff-elect of Washington County.
Absolutely. So what keeps you busy these days?
Wow. Since the election was decided in the primary back in March, I've really been wrapping my brain around taking office in January and learning all the different innuendos about the sheriff's office, about what the sheriff's office can do. I've been going to trainings, went to the Sheriff's Association of Texas annual conference up in Fort Worth a couple of months ago. Had an opportunity to meet and talk with sheriffs from all across the state and pick their brains on different things that affect their communities and the different innovative projects and programs that they have in place to try to best serve their communities. So it's been great. In my 32 years of law enforcement experience, we 32 years in January. I am probably the most excited about taking this position starting in January than I've ever been. And I'm looking forward to serving the people of Washington County as their 28th sheriff.
So you said you've been doing this for a long time. Can you walk us through what was it in your life that got you to a point of, I want to be a sheriff of a county one day?
Oh, great. My dad was a police officer. He was a state trooper stationed right here in Washington County. And ever since I was old enough to know what he did for a living as a young boy, I knew what I wanted to do with my life. And that was to dedicate it to serving my fellow man. Seeing the camaraderie and the relationships that were built within the law enforcement community, the way that those officers cared so deeply about their community, that they're willing to go out and do the hard things to keep us safe, is really what intrigued me to pursue law enforcement. And when I got of the age and a teenager, me and my dad were having those conversations about, son, what do you want to do with your life? I said, Dad, I want to do what you do. And I know he was honored by that, but I also, his words resonated with me of, son, there's a better way to make a living. I said, yes, Dad, I know, but there's no better way to make a difference. And from that conversation on, he 100% supported my decision to go into law enforcement. After graduating from high school here in Brenham in 1988, I attended Sam Houston State University, majored in criminal justice. I eventually got hired on in 1993 with the Texas Department of Public Safety. And I worked in Austin. Then I worked my way up into the trooper ranks. I was a highway patrolman in Montgomery County, in Fayette County, and also here in Washington County. When I finally got back home to Washington County, I thought that, this is it. This is where my dad worked and where he retired from, and this is where I'm going to raise my family. But God had a different plan for me. I took a promotional test, and I promoted out of the trooper ranks into a sergeant investigator with the Criminal Investigations Division. From there, I worked in lots of different capacities, from being on the governor's fugitive apprehension unit to working gangs, to working criminal enterprises, fraud rings, and just really chasing those criminal elements that choose to do harm in our communities. Following September 11, I was reassigned from my duties to the Joint Terrorism Task Force in Houston. So I became a member of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, and for 4 years, I worked cases involving national security and international terrorism. Had the opportunity to do really great things in that role. I then took another promotional test. I said, hey, Trey, we got a job for you. It's in Austin. So I go back to Austin, and I'm a lieutenant at headquarters, where I was over our Texas Fusion Center, where I supervised many different programs of the department. One being I was on a team that implemented the first of its kind Border Security Operations Center. We saw a need at that time, and this was in 2004. we saw a need at that time to really start ramping up our law enforcement presence along the border due to the overflow crimes that were coming in from Mexico. What we were able to develop was a program that could morph over time to address emerging threats. And what we're seeing now, the Border Security Operations Centers are able to better address the influx that we're seeing now with drugs and people coming across the border. And so I look back on that and I say, yeah, we did a good thing. We did a good thing, but we still can do better as a state. I then transferred to Houston, where I was supervising field units for our Criminal Investigations Division and looking at narcotics, motor vehicle theft, gangs, and fraud were our main focus points. And I worked in Harris County, Fort Bend County, Montgomery County, all of Southeast Texas. I also had our cyber crimes unit and our polygraph unit as well. And so from there, I took another promotional test. And they said, Trey, we got another job for you, but now we're going to keep you in Houston. And so I was assigned to the Texas Anti-Gang Center in Houston, which was a collaboration of 21 different law enforcement agencies whose sole purpose was to address crime, violence, and gang violence within Houston and Harris County and surrounding areas. We were able to implement the governor's violent crime initiative, where we made a direct impact on the quality of life of places within Houston and with Harris County, so that people aren't afraid to go to the store at night. We made great strides in that. And then following that, I retired in 2020 after 28 years with Texas DPS, and an opportunity arose for me to run for constable here in Washington County. And so I did that. And the good people of Precinct 2 decided, yes, we want Trey to be our constable out here. And I've been doing that job for the past 4 years. But I always knew in the back of my mind that there was something else that I wanted to do, a different calling, and that was to be sheriff of Washington County. And so I purposefully positioned myself to interact with the public in such a way and to talk about things that affect them. Not necessarily running on my pedigree, but running on, hey, what are these things that's affecting your quality of life, and what can we do as your sheriff's office to preserve that? And that's my goal as the next sheriff, is to preserve our quality of life, to make Washington County unattractive to the criminal element, so that when we do go to the grocery store at night, we don't have to worry about some things. And that's really what I want to do. And it was many, many years ago. I was a trooper here. I have not shared this story publicly. All right, so this is the first time I've shared it with my intimate group of friends. But when I was a trooper here in 1999, our sheriff was J.W. Jankowski. Wonderful man. Well, I was out on patrol, and I got a call from dispatch that the sheriff wanted to visit with me. And I said, okay. I ran by his house. We sat on the front porch, drank some sweet tea. And he said, Trey, do you believe in visions? I said, yes, sir, I do. He said, do you believe that visions are from God? I said, yes, sir, I do. He said, well, I had a vision. And I said, well, do tell, Sheriff. And he said, I had a vision that you were sheriff of Washington County. And I said, sir, I'm promoting. I'm leaving Washington County. They're sending me to Austin. I got to be there in a week and a half. I got to move my whole family and all this kind of stuff. He said, I know, but you'll be back. And I see you being sheriff of Washington County. And that's kind of always hung with me throughout my career. How can I best position myself to make the biggest positive impact on the community that has been so wonderful and so helpful to me throughout my career? And I've lived in lots of places. With DPS, if you take a promotion, they're going to send you somewhere else. So you're moving your family, you're moving your home, you're moving all this stuff. And wherever we found ourselves planted, we always try to make community there, get involved in the things that really make a difference. And in all the places that we live, we've always been able to call it home. But I always had to compare it to Brenham. And there's just nothing like it. This is a unique place, unique people, and it's just a wonderful place to call home. And I'm humbled and honored at the same time that the people of Washington County would trust me to be their next sheriff.
That is absolutely incredible. And I think there's times in our life that mentors or our role models or people that have made a difference on us, when they say something, that enlightens us or gives us inspiration, I think probably, you never shared it before, but that gave you a light along with your dad's guidance, to get you to something to aspire to and to follow. So that's really inspirational for people for when they have that mentor or someone in their life that makes a difference to keep going after it. It may not be right away, and there's gonna be God will leave breadcrumbs for you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I look back and on my years as a young man growing up and through my teenage years and my young adult years, that I've been very thankful and grateful for those mentors that I've had in my life. A lot of them were unwitting; they didn't know they were being mentors, but I was following their example. And there are some that we would meet on a weekly basis. Hey, how are things going? And there are some that took it upon themselves to say, "Hey, young man, come here." Yeah. Let's iron out some wrinkles that I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that whole story just gave me chills. We
were going to be really proud Washington County residents to have you in there January 1st.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I just have to touch base. So just hearing of all of the different places that you've been within your career, I had absolutely no idea I knew there were some, but gang units, terrorism units, cyber attacks, I just didn't know it was so many pieces into one. I had no idea there were so many different avenues.
Yeah, when he was talking about that, I think we all have those moments, especially around this time of year. It's like, where were you on September 11th, 2001? Mm-hmm. And so it's really strange to look back on it because it seems like yesterday, because it was such an impactful moment for the nation. And to know that those things were like task force were created, like that you were working on. Mm-hmm. So where are you seeing things in comparison to at that point that you said it's making an impact now with the way that the border is today?
Yeah. We've had some great opportunities in the past to really make our border less porous than what it is now. And we were doing a really good job there for several years. And then we had a change of administration at the federal level, which kind of hamstringed the way that those law enforcement units who were charged with protecting the border operated, which required more from state and local law enforcement. And have you ever been down to the border area for any of those wonderful cities that are down there? I'll just take Roma, Texas, for instance. Beautiful town, sits right on the Rio Grande River, has a big bluff that overlooks it. Wonderful people. In fact, my family and I, several years ago, we would vacation down in the Rio Grande Valley, and Roma was one of our destination points. You go down there today and it breaks your heart what these people are having to live with down there, and the strains and the stresses on their local resources just to take care of the major things. And the minor things, they just kind of let them go. And I understand that. You have to make some tough decisions sometimes. What are those things that we're going to be focusing on that could impact the lives of the people that we're responsible to protect? And so sometimes hard decisions have to be made. I think that we could do a whole lot more if we work together better from the federal level to the state level to the local level. And we can all be on the same page. And we don't have this delineation of authority and powers, that we're all out there doing the same job. Because as a state police officer, I cannot take action against somebody for an immigration status. I can't. By statute, I cannot. The only way I can take action is if a criminal offense under state law or federal law that's not immigration takes place. And so that kind of hamstrings us in a way. But that's why we have to have those good relationships where if we do conduct an activity where we identify somebody that has not committed an offense, but they're in the country illegally and we can't enforce that, to have that network with the Border Patrol and with ICE and immigration, that we can work together and at least do our part. And, and I know we can get in law enforcement, we can get very frustrated that, well, look, I put my heart and soul into this investigation, found the bad guy, and the judge lets him out scot-free.
Yeah, and it seems as if kind of on a federal level, like on a state level, like there's kind of a conflict, or there was, a few months ago, about what that's going to look like.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. It is, and it takes leaders in place that are willing to make those decisions. They're willing, hey, let's think outside the box. Let's see what we can do to better keep our community safe.
So like Kendra was saying a minute ago, is like, it's not that we don't know that there's things going on, but we're living our lives. We're paying the bills, taking care of kids, doing all the stuff. But I wanted to kind of dive into, so because of what's going on the border, we're several hours away from certain aspects of the border, but do you think that there's any, like, not a concern, but it's something that you're going to have to address when you step in as the sheriff in Washington County, or even just our surrounding counties, since we're not directly on the border?
Oh, absolutely. We're not seeing we're not seeing a decrease. We're seeing increases in undocumented individuals who are coming through our county and committing crimes. And when they do that, and we do arrest them and place them in jail, then we have to do a notification to immigration, and they'll place a hold on them. Then we have to hold that individual until their legal case here is disposed of, then ICE will take custody of. And sometimes that can be a long time to wait. And so in the meantime, we have people sitting in our jail that are just waiting for immigration, waiting for ICE to come and pick them up and do whatever it is that they're going to do with them.
But when you're dealing with millions and millions of people in the past couple of years, like, it's kind of a strenuous process, I would think, for law enforcement. It is.
When we look at things like that, we have all these people coming. We don't know who they are. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that makes it tough. Just trying to identify somebody who you're investigating. They don't have the documentation that a normal U.S. citizen would have, and so trying to identify them is very tough. And dealing with another country to try and get identification documents is very, very cumbersome.
And I would anticipate, it seems as if there's, like, I know that there was things on TikTok that it was like instructions of what to go from one point to the next point and so on and so forth for people to follow, and so I would anticipate that I know there's a large problem with, like, trafficking.
Yes.
So is that something that, is happening in our counties that, we might not be seeing?
Oh, absolutely. We have one of the biggest human trafficking hub in the United States is just to the east of us. It's called Houston. And when they come up from the border, or however it is that they are being trafficked, they got to get to Houston somehow. And they have to get to Houston on our roads. So they're traveling through here. They are. And it's up to us and up to me as the sheriff to train my personnel on what to look for when we are encountering these vehicles loaded with people out there on the side of the road. What can we do? What are the resources at our disposal? Because if we have a human trafficking victim, there are certain things that are available to us that we can use to better protect that person, and laws that we can use to charge the trafficker. And I think that the better we can prepare ourselves for that, the better off we're going to be. I've worked lots of human trafficking cases in my career, and they are sad. They are heartbreaking. And just being able to save and rescue one victim makes all those long hours worth it.
I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there's a organization. It was actually a woman that was a part of, she was, I think, in Oklahoma, and she was a part of human trafficking from her high school. And anyways, she started an organization called SOAP. And I forgot what the acronym means, but she gets bars of soap and she'll put on the back like a number, like a hotline to call to get help, because when the victims are taken to a hotel or whatever to get cleaned up, they're going to take the soap, open it, and then maybe escape and call someone. So when Super Bowl happened in Houston, me and a friend actually went, and the organization like gathered up with law enforcement, and we went and dispersed to different hotels and dropped the soap off with the hotel workers to put out. They rescued 3 women that day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It was crazy. Yeah. Like you just, you know it's there, but you don't know it's there till you see it, and then it impacts you like as how you're informing your family, your daughters, and so on and so forth.
Oh yeah. Well, that's great. That's thinking outside the box and getting resources into the hands of victims. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's just sad because, like you said, these things are going on, but as a what's the word I'm looking for? Someone who's not in that space every day, we don't think about, we get up, we get our coffee, we get dressed, we go to work, and, you guys on the back end are just doing all of these things that we don't see or think about on a daily basis. So, and I don't know if there's a answer to this, but how do you do what you do every day and then you go home and turn off the sheriff?
Man, that's a great question. Early in my career, I did not have a very healthy work-life balance because I was passionate about. Passionate people tend to just pour themselves into whatever it is that they're doing. And so I had to find a healthy balance in work and life. Not to say that if I was chasing a really, really bad guy that I wouldn't be home for 3 days. My wife is one of the most amazing people I know. She is so supportive, and she understands what drives me. She's always says, I'd rather, I like to see a man who is passionate about what he does and comes home and can be a husband, a wife, a husband and a father, than a man who is miserable in his job and comes home and he can't check that miserableness at the door. And so I'm a blessed man. And we've been married for 32 years in January. Yeah, we got married, and then 2 weeks later, I was in the police academy for 6 months. And so, she is just the biggest support, and she can tell when I come home if something's bothering me. And then we can sit down and we can talk and we can have those hard conversations. I also have great relationships with men who are not in law enforcement. And I when I mentor young officers, I say, don't surround yourself just with officers, because you all have the same mindset, okay? Have close friends that are in the banking industry, that are welders, that are plumbers, that are small business owners. And it will encourage you in the sense that, just like what you were saying, you don't think about these things that law enforcement has to deal with. And when I do talk to my friends about what's going on, I say, man, we never knew that. And I will say, you're welcome, because it's not affecting you.
Because you're creating a community that doesn't have to pay attention to all the yuck.
Yeah, to all the yuck. Yeah, and so my wife, she's just wow, and we have 4 wonderful kids. They're all adults. They're all out of the house. So that's
sometimes that might be scarier.
and so she has been a wonderful partner. She's been great through the campaign, and she is really looking forward to continuing to be there for me, and I can continue to be there for her. And it's just a beautiful relationship. She's my best friend, and it's an honor to be her best friend.
That's awesome. So what about, like, from what you've seen and what you've experienced and what you're stepping into, like, how did it impact you as a parent? like, did it make you not fearful, but, you know, like being more informed can make you kind of nervous about, you know, your kids going out and having to deal with it?
Yeah. You know, I made it a point to be real with my kids, and not tell them, hey, you know, everything's fine, everything's okay. No, some things are hard. Yeah. Some things are really hard. And that is what helps develop your character. As a young person growing up, you're going to be exposed to some things that you're not going to understand. And I want to be a resource here for you. Whatever my kids were involved in, I was involved in. And always took it upon myself to say, you know, if I can be there, if I can be a present dad, my relationship with my kids is going to go somewhere. And I have wonderful relations with my kids. They're, you know, I remember my relationship with my dad going from father-son to friend as I got older. And I'm experiencing that now with my kids. Yeah, I'm still their parent, okay? But we have a great friendship, and we talk about real things. And I just don't want them to ever be timid about coming and talking to me about, hey, I got this tough decision to make. You know, this came out of left field. I don't know what to do, and I consider it just an honor that they would still, you know, use me as a resource.
Right. And it sounds to me like, you know, things probably like your dad was doing for you as you kind of kept telling him through life, you're like, I wanted to be in law enforcement. And he was kind of giving you that like, you know, there's other opportunities.
Yeah.
But, you know, you've kind of stepped into that for your kids of just being open and transparent. And I think that's what's really important, to be a guardian or someone of affluence for a kid.
Yeah.
But life is different now for kids than it was when we were kids and when you were a kid. And
Right.
so what would you tell parents, you know, as you're stepping into this role, about like social media and things that, you know, they should be paying attention to, especially with all the, you know, things that could be happening on in the community?
Right. In 2 words, be involved.
Yeah.
That's it. Be involved. You're a parent first. You're not your child's friend.
Until they're older.
Until they're older. Right. And then that relationship changes. But those children are placed in your care for a reason. And you have to be involved. You have to know what they're doing. And whatever that looks like in that household, you know, you've got to monitor what your kid's doing. Because there's just so many different ways and avenues that the criminal element can prey on our children. And as a parent, if you restrict that and you prevent that, then the better off your child's going to be. Your child may not be happy that you don't get them a cell phone. They will live, I promise.
I sometimes wish we could go back to that.
Yes.
Just turning it off, and then, you know, if you want to talk, go to the house and pick up the landline.
Right. Exactly. Seems a whole lot simpler back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the kids today, they're inundated with so much information. And it's not all good. And if we can just put up those safeguards, say, look, child, I love you enough. I love you enough that I'm gonna put up these boundaries. You can do this all you want to. Whatever this is, you can do it all you want to. We're not going out here. This is not for you. This is not where you belong. This luggage is way too heavy for you to carry. Let's stay here. Let's be a kid. You know, I'm just going to bring up a quick study that I remember reading when I was parenting our kids. My wife and I actually read it together. And the school district did a study on a playground. And so they had a playground in the middle of this field. No fence around it, no nothing like that. And they let the kids out to go play. Well, all the kids stayed around the playground. They just stayed right here in this one spot around the playground. Well, later they had put up a fence around the playground. They sent the kids out to play. The kids were all over the place within that fence because they have a boundary. They know this is where I belong. This is where I'm safe, and this is where I'm going to be. So no boundaries. Those kids stayed right there in one spot in a cluster. With the boundaries, they spread out. And and when I try to apply that to my life as a dad, was we're going to put some boundaries up. Yeah, there's going to be some behaviors that are just not going to be allowed. But you can do all this, you can do this all you want to, but we're not going to do these things. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, kind of shifting the topic, is one of the things that we do in real estate is we're doing open houses and we're interacting and meeting people that reach out to us online, and we have no idea who they are. You know, sometimes when we're going to meet them at certain locations, what would be some advice that you would have for just realtors that are stepping into the business, or maybe someone that had a bad experience, of how they could protect themselves?
Yeah. Well, first thing I would say is, now I'm sorry for anybody that has a bad experience like that. And if you do have something that causes you pause, reach out immediately to local law enforcement. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to protect you. You know, there's certain safeguards that you can put in place. You know, I like the buddy system. You don't go show a house by yourself. I like to have the ability of somebody else at least knowing where you are, you know, having some personal protection with you. You know, if it comes down to that, whatever that might look like for you. Some people are okay with firearms, some people are not. Then carry mace or something like that, something that that you can use for self-protection, to at least give you the opportunity to get that distance between you and this other person. You know, letting people know where you are, or, you know, if you have to go by yourself, maybe, you know, use your phone, keep an open line. Somebody can always hear what you're doing there. If the property owners of the house that you're showing would allow you to put up, you know, cameras or something like that, some type of surveillance equipment, or if they already have it there that, you know, you can have somebody, you know, tap into to check on you and make sure that you're safe. You know, let people know where you're going, who you're meeting with. You know, when you get there, you know, if they're in the vehicle, jot down the license plate, or just take a picture of it, or better yet, just put a dash cam in your vehicle, so that when you do pull up, you know, it's automatically recording the vehicle and the image of the person or something like that. Well, and my follow-up question, are y'all seeing an increase in instances where realtors are going out and showing homes and they're becoming a victim of a crime?
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely, I've been in the business for 11 years, and there was always kind of the suspicious emails or text messages or things that would get like spamming in a sense. And so you just kind of knew better not to go somewhere or to meet them in a public location. If there was something that kind of just made you feel off. I think all of us, you know, have an intuition to know if something isn't right. But as far as like violent crimes, no. But people, you know, just, they can come off very suspicious, and, you know, you just want to have law enforcement that has your back, you know, not just throwing it at you of, you know, well, you're the one that opened the door, you know. Right.
Exactly. You know, it's victim shaming, and it's not right. I don't care what the situation is. But here in Washington County, as long as I'm your sheriff, if any realtor is out showing a house and they need help, call 911. We'll get somebody there.
Absolutely. I love that. So what about what, like firearms and like carrying those, just as an individual in Texas? Can you just like share any information about like what are your rights as far as like what the Second Amendment looks like here in Washington County and Texas? Sure
thing. Second Amendment's a beautiful thing here in Washington County, Texas. Yeah. 2A, you know, I highly encourage people to arm themselves. But before you arm yourself, I highly encourage you to know your weapon, to be proficient with that, to read and know Chapter 9 of the Texas Penal Code. That's the use of force statutes. Those are what you're going to be tried on if you have to deploy that deadly force.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk, like you said, if a realtor or anybody, just a woman or even a man, if they have a firearm, and if you're in an open house or in those circumstances, it's not like you can just like open up and start shooting the place, because there are circumstances you have to be paying attention to.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's why I encourage people. But before you get a firearm, read Chapter 9 of the Penal Code, and if you're okay with what that says, let's move forward. Let's get some training. Let's learn your weapon, learn how to use it safe. And then, by all means, carry it. And when Texas went to this constitutional carry, where you don't have to have a permit to carry a handgun in Texas, I was really, I was disappointed in one aspect of that there was no training required. I would like to see that. However, we have the Second Amendment for a reason, and that's to keep us safe and to protect us from government overreach. And so I fully support the carrying of a firearm, but I also want to encourage people to know when you can deploy that, and know when you can use it, and know how to.
Yeah.
And then know what happens afterwards. Because there's a whole lot that happens afterwards. I mean, when the moment in which the firearm is used is a small window of time. But now afterwards, when you're talking legal action, you're talking all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you're not part of an organization that offers you some type of a legal protection, and you're going to carry a firearm, I think you're making a mistake. Because if you have to use that, you're going to be tied up in court for a long time.
So it is a lot of responsibility to own and carry a gun. So it is very important to have, that training. So are there things in Washington County, is there offerings of training and safety courses, that type of thing?
There are, yeah. There's a few gun ranges around. You can do a quick Google search on those and find out where they are. The offering of, say, the license to carry courses are fewer now than what it used to be, because it's no longer required to carry a handgun in Texas. But I do highly encourage going through one and maintaining that certificate, mainly because if you're going to travel out of the state, although Texas law says that you can carry a firearm without a permit in Texas, as long as you're in Texas, you're fine. But you go to another state, let's say like Louisiana, who does not have, say, the constitutional carry law like Texas does, you could be facing some legal consequences there. However, if you get a LTC, a license to carry, then that authorizes you to carry in all 50 states. So I would highly encourage that, but it's not mandatory. Yeah.
So since it passed that you no longer have to have that permit, how big of a decrease have you seen on people coming to get those permits? Or
yeah, I'm not privileged to have that kind of information because we don't issue those permits. Those go through the state. And when I was with DPS, that was not part of a program that I supervised. So I don't know. All I know is from my personal experiences is that less people are going through the LTC classes. And I know a lot of LTC holders that say, look, I'm not planning on ever going out of the state, so I'm going to let mine go. I'm not going to have it anymore. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and so you were talking about travel and what that looks like, and I'm really glad that you said that because I'm sure a lot of people just don't know, just like everything else, of what might be going on, and you guys are protecting us, and we're not paying attention. Same goes for my grandpa said I could have a gun in the car, and then you go to Louisiana, and then you're
right.
SOL.
Right.
So I do travel a lot, and one of the things I think, especially since I'm just going to bring up a sensitive topic for some, since 2020, and there was like a massive crackdown on everybody's livelihoods of what they could and could not do. It was so crazy to see how different states were reacting and doing all of that. How do you feel Washington County would be if that circumstance ever came up again?
Well, I'll tell you this. As a law enforcement professional and as a incoming sheriff, I enforce the law. I do not enforce mandates. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to make the best decision on what to do for this county.
Right.
And if that means telling the federal government, hey, you're reaching out too far, I'm not doing this.
Right.
And then that's what we're going to do. Because I don't think we can, and it'd be tough for us to, we're a resilient group, but it'd be tough to recover from another lockdown like what we had back then.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things that I noticed just traveling nationwide is the mental health issues that happened of people being confined and locked in spaces, not getting fresh air, being like having coverings on their face for hours on end. It can really mess with somebody. And so not only that on the mental health aspect of maybe going into pharmaceuticals, but, they're relying on just off the street drugs to get their mind right. Are you seeing that increase in our area as like fentanyl and all of those off the street kind of things like that?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. The self-medication avenue that a lot of people choose can lead to very harmful results. So yeah, with our overdoses, those are tracked by our EMS department. They do a really good job of tracking that, and it tends to wax and wane.
Yeah.
I like the waxing, don't like the waning.
Yeah.
Right. And so yeah, it's a challenge. It really is. And regardless of what causes the mental condition or the mental crisis that this person's experiencing, us as law enforcement and as a community services, well, we need to be in a position that we can best help that person. And the people around them are the ones who know them the best. And so I want to see us be in a position where we can have open dialogue about what people are experiencing and get them the help that we can. I've had a lot of conversations with people around the county on mental health issues. I think we can do a whole lot better than what we're currently doing on that. I've talked to many providers, many elected officials on some different avenues, different resources that we can better align with. Because when our officers make the scene out there on somebody who's experienced a mental crisis, that is an extremely volatile situation. And they are armchair quarterback more than any other decision that you're going to make out there. What we want to do is, one, we want to help the person. Right? We want to align them with the resources that they need for treatment. Sometimes that is very difficult to do in a rural county. Mm-hmm. And so with some of the plans that they have on the state level, I think that's going to allow us in the future to better align people with resources so that we can get them help faster and better than what we're doing now.
So you guys are always doing things within your department, whether it be bouncing off from other counties and professionals. You're always growing and improving your current what's the policies and procedures.
Yeah. We'll call those best practices.
Yeah.
Okay. And what the thing that becomes a best practice is you did something in the past that wasn't best, and so you learn from it and you move on. And as long as we're continuing to work within the law and work within the best practices, think outside the box so we can be innovative in the services that we provide to this county, we're going to be able to better prepare ourselves for challenges, should they come. And I say should they come because I can't predict the future. All I know is what's going on to the east, to the west, and to the north of us. And I see that, and I want to do my best to keep some of those things or all of those bad things out of our community.
Yeah, and I actually have some friends that live like in El Paso and kind of on the border, and they're dealing with the kind of all the stuff we were talking about earlier in our discussion. And they were saying that people are putting members of the cartel are putting like fentanyl on dollar bills and then sticking it on people's windshields, like at the grocery store or something like that. Is there anything that we should be paying attention to in these rural counties? Because like you said, as far as mental health, there might not be as many of resources, but you're working on it. But also to be informed of what should you have in your back pocket, if and when that was to happen?
Right. Yeah. One of the best tools that we have right now to mitigate a accidental fentanyl overdose is Narcan. And I encourage people to keep Narcan on hand because you never know.
It's everywhere. It could be anywhere.
It can be used as an agent of war. Use that terminology. And why would somebody want to intentionally put something in their body that knows that's going to kill them, right? And so it's those unintentional overdoses that really sound our alarm bells. Somebody put this substance in this thing, whatever it was, or on this thing to intentionally expose somebody to this poison. And so that for us says, okay, now we're looking at something else. This is not just a drug dealer that we're looking for. This is a murderer. And we need to treat that as a homicide, and we need to investigate it as such and prosecute it as such. Yeah. So be perceptually vigilant. You know what your surroundings are. You know what's out of place. You know that if you come to your office and your door's cracked open and you know that you shut it the day before, don't go in it. Yeah, or get somebody else there to help you and see what's going on here because it's not right. If you find a dollar bill on underneath the windshield wiper of your car, yeah, that's out of the ordinary. Yeah, you may not want to touch that, and so you can't run around like Chicken Little, sky's falling. Right. But you do have to employ common sense, and you will never regret erring on the side of caution. Because if you don't, that error, it could have disastrous results.
So leaning into the future and your leadership, sounds like you have really great words of wisdom, So what are some things that you're looking forward to as becoming a leader in Washington County for the people that you're going to be, the young deputies and things like that are coming in?
Yeah. I get excited when I talk about things like that because I am looking so forward to providing my officers, my deputies and my jailers, my investigators, and my command staff with the tools and the training and the trust to be all they can be, to be the absolute best at what they do, become a true master of their craft, be a subject matter expert in what they do, and have the confidence moving forward that they know their stuff. And they know that I'm going to be there to support them. And they know that I'm going to recognize a job well done. Nobody comes into law enforcement because they want to get rich. If you get rich in law enforcement, you probably need to be investigated. We take this job to make a difference. And a lot of the times, the things that we do, they go unnoticed, except by the people that we are dealing with. I don't know anybody that calls 911 and say, I'm having the best day of my life.
Just wanted to thank you.
I just wanted to thank you. Things are great. No, they call 911 because they were having the absolute worst day of their life.
Right.
And then when we arrive on scene, we have to be prepared to deal with that, regardless of what it is. And our telecommunicators, our dispatchers, when they do take those calls, they do an amazing job of getting as much information as they can on that phone call to relay to the officer as they're responding to this thing. And so there's stress involved in all of that. And not only do I want to position my officers where they can be successful in what they do, I want them to be healthy while they're doing it. I want them to have a good, healthy mental outlook. And I want them to have a good, healthy body. And part of that is managing your stress. You can manage your stress in ways that are not beneficial for you and your longevity, or you can manage it in ways that's very beneficial for you. And and I've been there at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're dealing with the same people over and over again, and you're just wondering, am I really making a difference here? And now you're hungry. And where are you going to go get to eat?
A burger?
Yeah, that's right. Or a burrito from the 7-Eleven or whatever corner store that's open there. And that is not what your body needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I really want to implement is a health and wellness plan for my officers, so that they can be the best that they can be. So they can not only be the best officer they can be the best spouse or best parent they can be. And I think if we do that, the longevity of officers after retirement will increase, because right now the average lifespan of an officer after retirement is 7 to 8 years.
Really?
Right. Because of all the stress and the unhealthy ways that they dealt with the stress during the course of their career. But we're seeing an uptick in that because more and more agencies are implementing health and wellness programs to encourage their officers to eat right, exercise, take care of yourself, and promote positive mental health resources. And they're living longer.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and it's one of the things as a business owner or a leader that, you know, you're aspecting and looking into like what your projections for the year may be as your business plans, or, you know, your self goals and all those things. But something that was said is like, you know, sometimes looking at a 10-year goal can be really hard for some people. So let's just say, like you said, as far as mental health or spiritual health or emotional health, any of those things, if you can break it down into like a daily task of, you know, you're going in and you see that nice burrito and you're starving to death. Like if you can just ask yourself, is this going to benefit my weight loss goal for today?
Right.
And you can say no to it, or, you know, I don't care, you know, that can help you make those adjustments in a minor way versus, you know, I have to lose 30 pounds by the end of the month. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's a battle of willpower. Mm-hmm. You know, because whenever you go into a squad room, I don't care where you are in America, whenever you go into a squad room, a police squad room, there's going to be a box of donuts there. Okay. We call them power rings. And it's hard to say no, but I personally have not had a donut in over 5 years. And those are my weakness. I love them fresh, those Krispy Kreme donuts right off the rack. Yeah. Yeah. Look out. But I know it's not good for me. And I know that I can make better choices. And sometimes those better choices take some prep time and bringing your lunch with you. You know, I tend to bring my lunch to work every day.
Yeah.
Because my wife is an amazing cook, and she cooks real food. And that's what I want to eat.
I wish it was one of those, you know, that when we are out running around and being just humans and living our daily lives, like it's really inconvenient that, or it's convenient that the fast foods are at every single corner, and the sugary Starbucks and all the donuts and whatever. It's so convenient and cheaper than having to stop and prep a meal and do all that. I wish there was better resources for that. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does. It takes work. It takes work, and it takes a little more money too, to eat fresh, to eat real food. Yeah, but it's worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. You know, if you can manage your budget in such a way that, I mean, you know, we only have, it's hard to control what you have coming in, but you can definitely control what's going out. Mm-hmm. You know, so, and that's something that it takes discipline, and it takes those, like Dave Ramsey says, it takes baby steps. It takes the baby steps to get to that financial goal. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you have any more questions, my friend?
I mean, I could go on all day with questions.
I know we could.
but-
I know we could.
Yeah.
This has been such an insightful conversation. We are so appreciative of your time and, you know, your insights and what you're going to be bringing to our community. I know we're going to be looking forward to probably seeing you in the patrol car in a good way and waving at you. Do you mind sharing where people can maybe find more about you on social media, or how they can connect with you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, my campaign for sheriff, we do have an Instagram page, and we do have a Facebook page. What those are, I don't know. I have a manager that takes care of all that. But I do have a YouTube channel. It's at Trey Holloway. And on that channel, I have lots of different small short videos, one on leadership concepts, the 360-degree leadership with the 21 indisputable traits of a leader. And what I do with those is I take them one at a time, and I apply them to how they have made a difference in my career, and with some real life examples, and just encouraging people to accept some challenges on your leadership journey to try and implement this trait in somehow in some way. I also have videos up there of me talking about basically my candidacy, the different things that I've been involved in, from community-based functions to law enforcement-based functions to family-based functions, and things of that nature, just to get to know me just a little bit better. Washington County is a beautiful place, and on the campaign trail, I got to travel this whole county and meet people from all walks of life, people that I've known since I was a kid and people who I've met for the first time. And I enjoyed the conversations that I had with them, talking to them about what's on their mind, what their ideas are, what their solutions are. And it was invigorating, to say the least. We live in a very, very special place, and it's up to us, all of us, to keep it that way. I really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you so much for having me on here as a guest, and it's been nice to get to know you ladies.
Oh, yes, it was an absolute pleasure.
Yes.
So thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. As always, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you'd like to connect with us, you can find us at texastrioteam.com. Take care and keep living your best life.